when I was a younger man, I read a bunch of Hunter S. Thompson's books, and there's this part in Hell's Angels where it's like the first big biker rally that he goes to, or something of that ilk, some demonstration. But anyway, it's kind of descending into a riot with the bikers and the townsfolk, from what I recall. And there's this moment where Thompson is talking about how he was getting worried about shit's gonna kick off. This is before they beat him up, so it's kind of prescient. He knew they were dangerous, bad folks. And anyway, he bought like a case of beer, and then because that's what the big commotion with the bikers was all about. There was like beer was running low, and they're all getting antsy. So he got his own case, and then uh skulked off to his car, locked himself in the car. And the line me and my buddies always used to laugh about was like, I too have a strong taste for hops. Um, and explaining why he got his own case of beer to enjoy for his own little golem self inside his car. And I love shit like that within uh, pieces of art because it really gives you an insight. It could be a turn of phrase or, I don't know, a flourish from a film director. Um, like in Casino, there's that scene on the bed where I believe Joe Pesci, no, it's like De Niro and Sharon Stone. He's comforting her, I believe, and there's like the camera like gets knocked a little bit. And I didn't notice it the first time I watched it, but it's one of those things on YouTube where people, the nerds geek out about Scorsese's filmmaking. But like the camera moved somehow, it wobbled, fell off its stand, or the dude holding it got some tennis elbow. I don't know what the fuck happened. But Scorsese left it in there because he liked the take. He liked the emotion between Sharon Stone and De Niro. And it's like a little window in terms of his personality and his flavor. And I feel like there's all those arguments in terms of like what is art? Is mass produced mainstream crap art, or does it have to be kind of like I don't know, more weird and more kind of left field? Is that art? What are the parameters for art? Who fucking knows? But I feel like at least kind of like a part of it has got to be like, does whatever the thing that gets created, does it show like a little bit of the artist's warped perception of reality? Like the one example that I always think of, and this is interesting because like there's two very different schools of thought on Jerry Seinfeld's comedy, where it's a fascinating interview, absolutely fascinating, with Mark Maron when Seinfeld went on the WTF podcast. And Maron's of the school where it's like, oh, you got to like share deep truths on stage and bring your whole self. Lenny Bruce, blah, blah, blah. Where Seinfeld is like, no, showbiz. And just kind of, it's all about the jokes. He's a mathematician. He's a scientist when it comes to putting together comedy. And so Maron was like, can you please just show us who you are on stage? And Seinfeld's like, no, no need. If they're laughing, I'm doing my job. So Seinfeld is essentially being like, this is how I want to do it. And Maron's like, okay, well, that's fair. You are the most successful comedian of all time, the richest comic in the world. So you're doing it right, but it's not real art, man, because you're not bringing any of yourself. But Bill Burr said something very interesting about Seinfeld because he was basically commenting on the same thing. But Bill Burr was like, yeah, with Seinfeld's act, it's squeaky clean. It's all this observational comedy, but through like the omission of anything personal, you can kind of tell, and just I guess the way in which the kind of like twee and cutesy observations, but he's like just beneath that. You can tell that Seinfeld has an absolute disdain for humanity. And in interviews with Jerry Seinfeld, he kind of gets into it where he talks about going to high school and how he was very aloof and a loner because he didn't like the grandstanding and social climbing and the way that people, there's the alpha trying to be the top dog and the queen bee over with the gals, and there's all this backstabbing and bitchiness when it comes to social dynamics. And he's like, I want no part of it. Basically, he's always been this kind of weird little comedy monk, in a sense, where he's like perfectly content to stand outside of humanity and judge it. So if you look at Jerry's act, you might not get that directly, but if you read between the lines, like the subtext is like, you people are all automatons that are driven by base level impulses, and you're fucking morons. And I'm going to appease you with some fucking, what's the deal jokes, but just simmering beneath the surface. Um, I hate, I hate humanity. I hate you all. So anyway, that's interesting, right? Because once you see that, you can kind of sense it. And so maybe Jerry is kind of imbuing himself into it, but in a kind of like a hidden subtexty type of way. So anyway, if you create an art, let it all hang out in the most creative way possible. And yeah, because I want to get to know the weirdest version of you. That would be cool. And I'll return serve if you do that. All right, catch you on the next one.